The House of Representatives returned to the state capitol on Monday to tie up some legislative loose ends, and they announced they would keep the special session open until July 31st. The Senate will set up override votes in the coming weeks. Capitol correspondent Jason Doyle joins us from our OETA studio in the Capitol with a recap of the week's events. Jason.
Rich, while the governor did not veto the budget itself, he did veto two bills which could impact revenues if those vetoes stand. So lawmakers are trying to prevent the vetoes from tipping the budget out of balance.
Hey, members, we are taking up some important business today. If you could take your seats.
After 2 weeks away, House members took on overriding the governor's veto of a bill which extends tribal compacts for motor vehicle license tags.
I move that House Bill 1005X become law, notwithstanding the objections of the governor.
When Governor Stitt vetoed House Bill 1005X, he said he believed the legislature was trying to work around his authority as governor to negotiate with the tribes. Governor Stitt also questioned the legislature's authority to call a concurrent special session and that the compact extension did not meet the requirement of the call for the special session. House Floor Leader John Echols disputes those contentions.
There have been they're called concurrent special sessions. There have been even once during the 11 years I've been elected, so no, there's no legal basis for that claim. The legislature exercising their authority has no bearing as to whether or not another branch of government can exercise their authority. And that's what we're doing. We're exercising our authority.
Echols said if the vetoes on House Bill 1005X and its companion bill dealing with the extension of tobacco compacts, Senate Bill 26X, are not overridden, it will cause revenue issues.
If this were to fail, there would be a loss of revenue inside the state of Oklahoma. And as we talked about, understanding Oklahoma's unique constitution, we have a balanced budget amendment. That means we are uniquely situated anytime you're talking about either cutting or lowering revenue, either one, it clearly goes towards budgets.
The House approved the override.
Having received 2/3 vote of those elected to and constituted in the House, I declare House Bill 1005 to have received the sufficient number of votes to become law, notwithstanding the objections of the governor.
Also on Monday, the House took action to extend the special session to give both the House and Senate more time to work on the veto overrides. When asked if there was another purpose, Echols said, not right now.
Anything we did would have to be within the scope of the call of special session. I will tell you the intent right now, though, is to only take up that one veto override.
The Senate is expected to return on June 26 to override vetoes, including the tobacco compact extension in vetoed Senate Bill 26X. The extension was passed by the full House.
79 aye, 5 nay.
While it will be another week or so before the Senate takes action, lawmakers and officials are celebrating what crossed the finish line during the regular legislative session, which ended on May 26th. That included legislation to give state law enforcement more tools to act against bad players in the medical marijuana industry.
I am deeply appreciative of our legislature. We had some great authors in both the Senate and the House that received a lot of input from law enforcement, to include my office.
Oklahoma Attorney General Getner Drummond's office, the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, and the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority worked with lawmakers on the reforms.
OMMA is still going to issue licenses. We're going to enforce with OBN so that instead of having regularly scheduled inspections with announcement, we can, with any kind of reasonable suspicion, go in and inspect a grow operation.
Currently, there are nearly 6,300 marijuana grows in the state of Oklahoma. One of the reforms is limiting grow operation licenses at one location.
Presently, you could go into a grow facility, there maybe have 4 licenses. And you go, okay, well, these 3 are illegal and this one's legal. And they go, oh, well, that license owns all this marijuana. Okay, so it truncates law enforcement's ability to enforce. Whereas now, once the law's implemented, you can only have 1 grow operation per facility. So if you go in and that's an illegal or a disqualified license, then all of that marijuana is contraband and we can remove it all.
For those who are behind on taxes but are required to have an occupational license through the state, like a nurse or teacher, a reform is coming which will allow them to keep or renew their license. House Bill 1956 was a bipartisan victory, according to Representative Melissa Provenzano. She recently met a nurse who started making more money and then found herself in tax trouble.
they won't let me renew my nursing license, your occupational license. And I said, well, why? Because I owe these taxes, which seems a bit of a catch-22. You know, you can't continue to do the work to pay the taxes because you owe the taxes.
Provenzano introduced a piece of legislation to address that issue, and so did House Speaker Charles McCall.
And it turns out when you're the leader, you get to run your bill. But it was remarkably similar, then they became the same. And so we all got on board with that version, and we're very happy that you no longer have your licensure at risk if you owe taxes.
To stay in good graces with the tax commission, a person simply has to set up a payment plan to take care of the back taxes and keep up with the payments. Legislation, which the Oklahoma News Report covered earlier this year, would create a $3.3 million pilot program to address red cedar tree infestation in the state.
It is an opportunity to address the long overdue issue of invasive species taking over a lot of our state lands. This particular pilot program will get us started specifically in the North Canadian watershed.
Dobrinsky notes this issue has been discussed since the 1990s at the state capitol, and this year the legislation made it across the finish line on the final day of the regular legislative session.
I think it was a perfect storm between the drought and a lot of historic recent wildfires in our area, and Oklahoma City putting forth an effort toward their future water needs in various efforts, including Canton Lake.
One issue which is still up in the air is funding for the OK Pop Museum. The Senate passed a measure to provide an $18 million match to finish the project. However, the House did not take up that bill, and it's looking less likely to do so, even with the extended special session.
When the Senate returns to the Capitol, it will take on the veto overrides, and then the House will have to return to finish the override on Senate Bill 26X.